Everybody, welcome back to the Brian and Pete podcast. Pete is out there, no doubt, being awesome somewhere. Today, I got the amazing opportunity to interview my wife, Kellie Ingraham. Hi, Kellie.
Hello.
It's
It's
great to have you.
a pleasure to be here on the podcast. Wow. We actually made it
Yeah,
happen. It's kind of a miracle.
yeah, it's kind of a miracle, a little bit intimidating from from my point of view.
Probably
We'll
both
see.
ways, but here we are.
Yeah, okay. So the goal for today is I want you to just tell your story, and I know that there's some really big themes that God's been working on in your heart and your life, but I want people to get to know you and hear from you. They hear enough from me, not enough from Pete, but they hear definitely enough from me, and so I'm excited to have people learn a little bit more about my wife and the person who is just been such a huge part of my life since we've been growing up.
Great. Wow. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share a bit of my story and to just to be here today with you all.
Great. Let's dive in.
Okay.
Let's start. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start the day you met me? Where do you just give me
Oh, wow.
a few snapshots of like just young
Sure.
Kellie pre Brian, like when you were two or something.
Okay. Like a little brief origin story. Okay, I
Yeah.
grew up okay, I was born in Washington State in the suburb of Seattle. I was raised in a Christian home, which I think, of course, was wonderful. My mom was actually a first generation believer in her family. She became a Christian because a neighbor invited her to a Young Life camp, and she became a Christian when she was 16. She met my dad at university, and he came from a like rich heritage of Christian faith. Anyway, so I was raised in a Christian home and a part of church, and then met we met at a little Bible camp on Whidbey Island, Washington. Leading up to, I guess, our meeting, we sort of grew up there together. So I don't know. We first met when I think maybe I was 11 and you were 12. Like I remember being at the camp the summer you got baptized. We weren't friends. We didn't know each other really at that point. But I think you would have been 13, right? And I was 12.
But you thought I
Um,
was awesome, is what I wanted
well,
you to really
there
bring
was
out there.
some, and you had no idea who I was. But yeah, so that's kind of sweet. We grew up on the opposite sides of Seattle, met at a little Bible camp, which is very precious to us on Whidbey Island, Washington, and grew up there. And then as we became teenagers, then we started doing more like serving together at camp for longer bits of time and started dating when we were quite young. I think I was 16, you were 17, way back in 1993. But I suppose leading up to that, I had felt like growing up, some sort of calling or some sort of dream or nudge or thought or um, just that my life would maybe look a bit different to how I grew up. That there was kind of a call to missions, I guess I would say. Maybe not, maybe wasn't that clear, but just a sense of something um, that I was going to do outside my how I grew up, where I grew up. And I suppose that was just like reinforced through like so many wonderful things that happened like in our youth group at church and through camp. There was just a lot of I guess building into that. And so we kind of met and I had this sense, and I think you had your own story there, but you had a sense of that as well. We weren't exactly sure like what that would look like. Um, or when that would all happen where we would maybe leave, but I think it was pretty sweet that the Lord brought us together young and that we had that we each had a sense of calling in our hearts to something that we were going to do for the Lord that was outside how we grew up.
I remember early days just hearing you say like I don't want to live in the suburbs, really in the suburbs of Seattle. Like that's not my dream, having grown up with all of that. Well, that definitely didn't happen. We have not had a suburbs life. So, sounds like you had something there. Do you remember anything else about those nudges? Because I'm always trying to think through those early years and how I was feeling led, and there's a lot of
Mm.
blurry for me these days, but you did have a lot of clarity from being really young. You wanted to serve Jesus with your life.
Yeah, I think that just really was sort of in me, and but it's sort of an interesting one because I feel like I'm naturally a bit more shy and a bit more reserved. I'm naturally um not usually the first to like volunteer to try something new. I like to kind of watch and then jump in. And also I just battled a lot with like fear and anxieties, maybe worried about what people would think or worried about how I would do trying new things. So there's sort of these parallel stories, these sort of fear and anxiety and just my natural temperament, and then this sort of dream of like I want to do something big for the Lord, and I want to step out and do something. But how would why would He use someone like me? I guess there's sort of these things going on, but yeah.
Yeah, and that was real. Like I remember you did have a
Mhm.
lot of like anxiety. In fact, I remember when we were in college, when we were still dating,
Yeah.
you were thinking because of anxiety of maybe not continuing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, we started dating young. We were still in high school. You were a senior and I was a junior, I guess. We were getting to know each other, and then um, we both knew that we were going to go to Bible college. At least I knew I was going to go to Bible college in
you
Portland
you
when I
persuaded me. Yeah, yeah.
graduated, and so you checked it out, and then you ended up going the year ahead of me or whatever, and then I joined you the next year, and they were really like special years. But I think I was just, yeah, there was a lot of fear still, and a lot of like I just struggled with a kind of, yeah, a lot of anxiety in my heart and in my mind. And I had a kind of a crossroads moment of like, oh, am I going to move home for a semester and study there and hope to rejoin? Or am I going to kind of persevere through this anxiety? And of course, you were great encouragement and helped me through that. And ultimately, I slowed down my pace of study a bit and did make up some courses in the summer when I was back home. But I chose to keep going at the Bible school. And I feel like that was significant because I had to really like lean on the Lord. And, you're not with me all the time. I'm not with my parents. I'm kind of having to really lean in and trust the Lord. And He's so faithful and He's so good. And so, just a lot of years of like gaining confidence and like being, yeah, persevering through feeling a bit anxious and fearful and conquering that.
Yeah, I love your story because I mean, so many people, have that reality of anxiety, maybe at all points of life, but like you're even underplaying it. I think a little bit. I don't want to overplay it, but like there was a season
Yeah.
in that sense where you're like afraid to drive. You were
Yeah.
driving, and then you were afraid to drive,
Yeah.
where you were afraid to be like go to like the grocery
Yeah, afraid of
store.
like being in places with a lot of people or even afraid of being alone. So it's just, there are a lot of um yeah, attack on all sides, I
Which is
suppose.
amazing because it seems like the enemy is trying
Hmm.
to get you when you're
Yeah.
young so that you don't walk the courageous path that you end up
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
But you
And I
made some.
probably, yeah. And you just, taking it a step at a time in a way, I wouldn't have thought
Mhm.
of all of these things at that moment. I'm just kind of trying to figure out what's going on here and to push through, I guess. When you're zooming back now that we're in our like late 40s, you're just thinking like so many significant decisions were made in 5 or 6 years, I think. You think about those 20s and how significant some of those moments are. Who maybe the Lord's brought someone into your life. I'm like, okay, am I going to marry this guy? Are we going to have children? Are we going to go, in the mission field? All these things kind of happen in a relatively quick amount of time. So we did get married young, which was really fun. And we, yeah, kept going with our education, and the Lord opened some amazing doors at a couple wonderful churches in the Portland and Seattle area that we were able to like gained some great ministry experience and working with big teams. And I was, at this point, still conquering some like fears and anxieties. I was like back out there, like driving, even though like there was parts of it that freaked me out and being like independent in some of those ways. We had our first couple of kids, and then we were really, again, at a crossroads moment, I suppose, trying to decide, are we gonna go on the mission field, or are we gonna now or wait? And we decided to go. And there's probably a lot in that I could say about, and we both have our probably different perspectives, but it was a decision we definitely made together. And I'm so glad that we did.
Yeah, and in those years, because you had your Bible and theology degree, and because you had your women's ministry degree, you were. Remember, we were working together in different departments at the first church down in Portland for a long time, and then when we were in Seattle, we had kids, but you were like right there with me as we're helping start this university age ministry and this next generation church sort of thing. Uh, at that moment, you weren't on staff, but it actually helped. It was actually more of us working
Mhm.
together because we weren't in different departments at that point,
Yeah.
and just kind of bringing our creative energies together. That was good. Oh, okay. Just I
Mhm.
know that we're past this point in the story,
Okay.
but back to the anxiety moment. Just the last thing I
Yeah.
want to say about that: our wedding. So Kelly was so anxious of being
I was
standing up
so
in front of people,
anxious. Yeah.
and being up in front of people, and
Yeah.
so she was always like, her anxiety was that she would pass out,
Yeah.
and it was such a big deal, like this
Hmm.
anxiety level,
Yeah.
that all of the groomsmen and myself
Oh,
had a plan. You
ah,
remember this?
no. I'm so glad I don't. I just blocked some of this stuff out, probably.
Our plan was, if Kelly passed out, we would all just fall down, and it was just going to
Oh,
be part of it. But yeah, it's such a big thing. But then
yeah.
when it came time to go on the mission field, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember I came over to visit Glasgow, and you're just like, come back knowing, and
Yeah.
your experience of it is very different than mine.
Hmm.
Like my experience is, like I'm coming over, I'm seeing,
Yeah.
but your experience is like, I've never been east of Chicago in my life.
Hmm.
I am having to get a passport for this idea
Yeah.
of moving. I have a 1 year old and a 2 year old. I have parents
Yeah.
that I love, and I'm
Hmm.
just and very connected to. You have this high cost, complete unknown, not ever having, I don't know,
Yeah.
been anywhere. I mean, like, what was that? What was
Nothing.
that
Yeah.
moment like? Because you probably had
Yeah. I
some
hadn't been
Jesus moments
overseas.
during that
Yeah.
year leading up to it.
Yeah. I think that in a lot of ways, there was a kind of sweet ignorance, I think. Having two small children, I'm just very present and have to be, in the moment with all of that. And so I think in a lot of ways that was going to be my life wherever I was, because that was my season, right? So I think the Lord was just very kind to, yeah, just lead me through that. I felt like, um, yeah, there was lots of circumstances where I felt like this was the moment to go for it. There was, yeah, I don't know if we want to get into it, but there was lots of like practical, like I'm very like realistic as well. And so there's just lots of things going on. We were kind of in a crossroads moment with like your folks and where we were living and the church we were working at. And we were at a crossroads moment with the kids being so little. We were like, oh, do we move now? Kind of before we think about schooling or settling in somewhere. And we also just, yeah, I think we just had that dream in our hearts. And so we had good friends that we had met at Multnomah um, School of the Bible in Portland that were going as well. And so there was just kind of a sense of like some built-in community and safety in that. And I just feel like in some ways those years were a blur, and I'm sure because of having the small kids. But um, looking back, if I was gonna like tell 20 something year old Kelly some good advice, I think there was just, keep persevering, like calm down, like you don't need to be so afraid because the Lord is with you. He's with you wherever you go and he'll direct your steps, and just keep trusting him, and don't be afraid to to say yes. So that was a pretty big move, though, to um, shift our whole life to Scotland. But no regrets.
Yeah.
And I think that was it. When you came back from that kind of scouting trip, it was, I guess, in the way that I think, it was sort of like, well, would I regret like not taking this opportunity? And somehow that kind of helps me to press the go button. I was like, oh no, I think I'd regret not kind of teasing this out and seeing where this might go. And so then that's what we did. And it was like old school, fundraising with like paper newsletters and, you know, all this kind of going to the churches we were connected to in the area. And it was, building a list of friends and family that we could let them know about what we were going to do. Um, and then we went for it, took a pretty big step.
I mean, people probably have a perception of what Brian's like and what Kelly's like, and they probably imagine Brian is this like, oh man, now that I say words, they're gonna be like, nope, that's not what we think at all. But like a little bit, like a courageous kind of go for it sort of person. But in that moment,
Hmm.
I was hesitant because it was a really big thing, and I
Yeah.
remember coming back into after visiting Glasgow and just
Hmm.
being really thrown, like, oh wow, this is such uh, an impossible looking
Hmm.
reality. It doesn't look like a path to I don't think I can do this. I don't think I have the skills or abilities or anything to do what I feel like God's been calling us to do. And you remember like those months of just feeling really shaken and thrown, and it was
Yeah.
really you who carried the courage for September, October, November
Hmm.
that year
Yeah.
until we just decided, okay, we are going to do this. We are going to quit this job. We
Yeah.
are going to we're going to say yes to this
Yeah.
missions team and we're going
Hmm.
to go for it. But
Yeah.
like it really was your your courage and your words because I was thrown.
I think that's sort of speaks to a bit of our dynamic, I suppose, and our friendship, and probably in our story because we met so young. We really, are just very connected and grew up together in so many ways, right? Our late teens
Mhm.
into, and we're in our like mid 20s at this point, and we probably just, I guess, sort of know how to like encourage each other and speak to into each other's fears and maybe like kind of
Mhm.
read between the lines a bit because you had gone to the scouting trip, we had talked a lot about all this. It was sort of just the final like courage nudge to like,
Mhm.
okay, let's just give this a go. And like I said, there's just so much sort of sweet ignorance probably on my part, and the Lord just carrying us through that season of life, um, that got us here. He just directed our steps, which was amazing. I feel like you're a natural encourager in our relationship. You're like Mr. Positive and always so encouraging, which I feel like is so special for me with when it comes to like saying no to fear and saying yes to um perseverance and to like new opportunities and things. And um so sometimes maybe I've caught some of that and it's my turn to like encourage you. You're way better at encouraging me. I need to be quicker to encourage you, I think, a lot of times, but
If you
our
say so, I'll
dynamic,
write that down.
yeah, our dynamic works well in
Do you
that
remember
way.
this? Do you remember
Yeah.
the summer where we were leaving? And like my memory is
Yeah.
quitting the job, feeling entirely
Yeah.
nauseous until 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 especially in the month of August. What were? Do you remember
Yeah.
your thoughts and feelings? Just like it, we'd made all the decisions, we quit the
Yeah.
job, and we were just about to get on a plane, selling our
Yeah.
stuff. Do you remember how you were in that moment? Were you
I was,
anxious or were you good?
I was excited. No, I think that the Lord had done a lot in me. I think that I was gaining confidence in a lot of areas and was feeling victorious and feeling like God's faithfulness was there. I was probably it's just funny. Like, you remember a lot of these moments more than I do. I remember some goodbye, kind of like, I remember being at the Irwins, your grandparents' house, and them throwing like a goodbye thing for us. And, you know, yeah, I just, again, just kind of was going along with it in a lot of ways. I was excited. I was excited for the team that was forming, that was going to be here, and probably for a new adventure that we could do together.
Mhm.
You were probably bearing more of the like, you know, I need to take care of her and the kids, right? Because we're a young family and this is a big, bold move. And I was probably excited to be able to have an adventure and to do something together with our family and with some friends that were here and to see what the Lord had in mind.
Yeah,
I was sort of blissfully ignorant, and I think the Lord was really good in that.
then we flew across the world.
Yeah,
We landed. We established a couple, starting in one
yeah,
flat, moving to another flat. During that time, we kind of tried to start a church in our own home, which didn't work. But do any memories from that moment where we'd have meal
yeah,
and tiny little kids running
yeah,
around?
yeah. Just early days, I think, of just finding our feet here in the city and getting to know it. I remember just feeling, um, yeah, just a lot of adjustments, I think, from um, growing up in the Seattle area to coming to the UK, to living in a city, to not having a car, to just getting used to living in a flat and using public transport. And we met some people at the park, and they said, "Oh, you're our oldest Ethan, is that point like turning 3, he could go to the neighborhood nursery." There was, just these kind of new steps and like integrating into to Glasgow and things and getting to know where we were in our new home. I guess in my mind, I kind of had thought, okay, we'll come for like 4 years because 4 years feels like a significant amount of time. You go to university for 4 years, and that's a significant amount of your life that I guess look back on and think, oh, this is where I went to university, and these are the things that happened while I was there. So I thought, oh, 4 years, that seems like a good amount of time. But then here we are, I don't know, 22, 23 years later, and I'm so glad that it was longer than 4 years. I'm glad that we're here. I'm probably more of a present, like bloom where you're planted. What can I love about where I am? Sometimes that takes some effort, but there's a lot to love about life here, and I think God really knew what
Yeah.
I needed.
I want to dive back
Yeah,
and explore a different theme in a second
sure.
here. But when it just closing loop on some of this anxiety journey, I see you
Yeah.
now, and you're just like always trying, like saying yes, like as you're not starting in a fearful place with so many of these
Oh.
new big thoughts, and like how like what's your current mindset when it comes to like I'm not giving way to anxieties, I'm keeping that door
Mm.
closed, I'm walking in courage,
Yeah,
and
well, I mean, I think there's, always going to be some levels of fear or anxiety or just like nervousness or stress or just big moments in life, but I think one of the when I look back at myself when I was, like I said, in those late teens, early 20s, and I think, oh, you know, I think, oh, don't be so silly, or, kind of venture into some of those shame things of like, why were you so worked up? Or why were you so afraid of these simple things? Or, you know, you had nothing to be afraid of. But then I think, oh, but I was. And I think, oh, the Lord actually taught me so much like in that time. And I think how I'm wired is I've learned that for me um to stay active and doing, I guess, not in a not in a way to necessarily like it's just a way that I can battle anxiety and fear by instead of letting my thoughts spiral and like kind of uh, stepping away. um I need to step forward into some like positive action or some like relationships or opportunities or so I think I've learned that about myself, that, of course I need to rest and I need to be and I need to cultivate the spiritual life and all of this, but I also need to, I guess, stay active in doing good things, I guess. That kind of idea has really helped me to not fall back into anxiety and fear, and to kind of know when, like, oh, why is this getting bigger? Why do I feel this growing? No, no, no. Like, that's not okay. So it's easy to recognize, I suppose. And um, I'm still not like great at saying yes to every opportunity, and I don't think I should. But sometimes I've like said yes to things that are a little bit scary, and then I'm so glad that I did, and it builds confidence. And sometimes I've said like a quick no and thought, oh, I should have said yes to that and just given it a try. So I suppose that's what the Lord's taught me. So I can be like now in my late 40s, more in a posture of like, uh, yes, and it's okay to try new things, and confidence and courage. And I think there's probably just something too deep in me that's like, I don't know, we made this big move and decided to, follow the Lord the best we could, and to do this work for him here in Scotland is probably, sort of set a bar of like, okay, well then sure, let's just try new things because we've ripped the band-aid off.
Yeah, it can't be any worse, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's better and better. Like in some ways thinking about those years and like, oh, I wouldn't want to go back. I
Mhm.
like I
Yeah.
like
So
where we've come. Yeah.
so you do a lot, you run and just kind of just being in tune. You like to
Yeah.
serve very practical ways,
Yeah. Hmm.
which kind of brings me to this other theme that I've seen in your life
Yeah.
for a long time, this idea of greatness through serving, greatness through service. If you want to be great in God's kingdom, learn to be the servant.
Yeah.
And you are great up in front of people, and see you up there.
Oh, thanks,
But
babe.
yeah, yeah. But sometimes, but I know that you genuinely tend to love to help build the platform for
Hmm.
other people to shine and to leap off of, and to kind of come behind and serve and do very practical things. And I've watched you kind of think through, it seems like such a small thing, and yet it's so significant. Let's go back through now and talk about where did this like greatness through service heart come from, and what's going on with that.
Again, I think that it does sort of go back to the beginning with even our time at Bible camp. That was the greatness through service was from there. There was a trained in Christian living program at the camp for teenagers, and just a lot of the hard work of the dish crew and the grounds and the cleaning and all of this. And it just was really ingrained that greatness comes through service, and no job is too small, and there's so much joy and in it. And there's also like a lot of intense like discipleship and spiritual stuff that goes along with that as well. And it's a small group of people, like 20, and they just become usually good friends. And so I think there's just a lot of, oh, that was, everybody looks back on it, that like kind of goes to the camp and like, oh, that's the best program, which is so funny because it's the one with the hardest work, right? But I think that that was sort of ingrained in us early on. Like you think about like how God's prepared you for like what he has for you, like, as your life unfolds. And so then here we are. I find myself with, we have young adults now, and then like leading young adults in service at church. Like I'm, overseeing like their care of some of the buildings, and working with them. And there's just a lot of these like TCL moments. I feel like I've never really left that mindset, here we are. Or, you do it, we're just doing a lot of the, um, what do you call it? I don't know,
You're talking
just
about,
basic like
yeah,
care sometimes for the buildings, like, oh, this doorknob needs tightening, or this thing is broken, or whatever, and
setting up the
like
tables for an
here
event.
we go. Yeah. Like
Picturing
this
you
is
having these
part of it.
little
Yeah.
cotton swab
Yeah.
dabbing paint into these tiny
Yeah.
pinhole things,
So
and
funny.
and just the attention, you just have such an attention to detail,
Oh,
and just kind of making sure that uh, the little things matter, and really the little things are often we become blind to over time, but you just don't. uh, you don't become
for
blind to it
better
over
or for
time.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
I have to know when it's good enough and walk away. But yeah,
yeah, but
we're
just
a
kind of
good
that
team like
heart,
that.
the value, because you
Yeah.
have this value to serve, but you also have a
Yeah.
value for aesthetic and things looking good.
Yeah. I think just back to the service thing, I think what's so fun about the church and about the body of Christ is serving with people. And so of course, I think it's just so fun and easy to get to know people when you're, serving alongside them for like this greater mission and purpose. And so that's been a real theme, I think, in our lives that I hadn't really anticipated was, firstly that as a family, we're on this big adventure and this big mission together, raising our kids into it. And then now we also have all these other, I guess, quote unquote kids and young adults and young people at the church that we are also like on mission together. And there's something so joyful about being on mission together. And I do think that there's a lot of, like when I talk to them about prepping for Sunday, the Sunday is the big day, Sunday is the best day. And so we want to um, you know, give it our all because God's worthy and we want it to be set up and ready to go and to be welcoming and again, not like for perfection's sake, but just because like God is worthy. And so we want to just do our best with what like God's given us as a church, like within our limitations at each of the different locations, like how can we welcome people well and say like God is worthy of our best efforts. And Sunday is really special that we can all come together um, to worship Him. So,
I love your slogan, Sunday Best Day.
yeah,
Yeah, and just but you really I see you like
Mhm.
most Saturdays you go down to
Yeah,
the church just to make just to make make sure everything is ready, especially in the evening. I might be getting ready for the preach next day, and you're getting ready to welcome people the next day, and just I know that it makes you feel
yeah,
peaceful also, just to make
yeah,
sure that you're prepared
sure.
and stuff,
Yeah,
that
I like
everything's
to be
prepared.
prepared. And like I've said, I've kind of learned like how I can, okay, how can I put my best foot forward on a Sunday? How can we lean into this together in our own unique ways, but like as a team? And for me, it just helps to know that things are indeed ready. And how can I help to like push that over the line of readiness? And how can I, yeah, know that I can step in on the Sunday with um like confidence and like as few distractions as possible. So
Yeah, and then I mean, just think about all the meals since we moved to 22 years of like church meals.
yeah,
It used to be every Sunday in our home, I think, in my memory, at least it was.
yeah,
And then in the early days of the church,
yeah.
it was lots of meals,
Mm-hmm.
and even now like feasts several times a
Yeah.
year, a couple of different times a year,
Well,
or
I'm not
student
cooking all
meals.
those, just to be clear. Like we have an amazing team that does it.
Yeah, but you're a part of often like
I'm a
going out
part
and
of it.
getting the
Yeah.
food and
I'm part
going
of
to the
it. Yeah.
shops. And
It's a big value, I guess, of that we have for our church, right?
yeah, but
And
the hospitality, yeah.
yeah,
And serving people well. I feel like the just so much of what you do, it really is
yeah.
like behind the scenes, almost like muscle work. I'm sitting here at my keyboard, type. You're down there like hauling tables around and setting up stuff. It's what were you like this
Yeah,
last
we're a
week? You're out there
great
at
team.
Paisley
Yeah.
painting, and I'm
Yeah.
just here like
Well,
tippity
sometimes I just
type.
get excited about my I love a good project and I love, like I said, to be doing stuff, but sometimes
Yeah.
I bite off more than I can chew, I guess, right?
Yeah. And I think everybody's different. Everybody's made differently. And I really like how I've seen you really work through who maybe you might perceive yourself as who you should be
Hmm.
versus coming to peace with this is my wiring. And maybe people would be like, oh, you shouldn't be coming down here and just doing all this, like, have other people do that, but you're like, no, it's part of my worship, it's part of my wiring, it's part of what brings me peace and joy in kind of serving in this way.
Yeah.
And on Sundays you're in it to win it with all the people, and just yeah, you just kind of have all those sides. In fact, I actually think you have more people capacity these days than I do. Something happened from like nervous, shy Kellie to Kellie. It's church has been over for 5 hours. Let's go home. It's fun.
Yeah. I think that that's part of like such a fun part of life, right? Is that it doesn't stay the same and that we do change and grow and we probably maybe I've stolen some of your extroversion.
Stolen that you
Yeah.
can, yeah, it's great. I love it.
I've
Um,
robbed you of it.
yeah, but like, let's what do you do these days when it comes to you're looking at a challenge,
Yeah.
and you're not necessarily excited about the next challenge or the next
Okay.
thing, and
Okay.
maybe a little bit overwhelmed by it. How do
Yeah.
you kind of work through your own heart as you're getting ready for the next change or the next challenge, to go from like worry or fear, anxiety, which is a natural starting point for many people? You've really overcome a lot of that, to like joy, courage. Okay, let's embrace this and go for it positively.
Well, I mean, I don't think I ace it. I have to really struggle sometimes in my heart and mind, and probably with you of like, okay, I need to like stop grumbling. I just need to do it.
I don't think of you as a grumbler, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Oh,
If
phew.
you are, I'm missing it. I can be a little bit dense
Great.
sometimes.
I think just, I don't know. I don't think I ace it every time or step into it in a beautiful way, but I think just getting the rhythms right, doing the Bible read through and doing, Sunday is special, Sunday best day, it is set apart and it's set aside. And then, big things that come along. I think I have to just step in. Yeah.
Sometimes your husband, he has a big thought, and you'll be like,
Oh, yeah.
"Okay, Kelly, here's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking." And
Yeah.
with the church, we're gonna
Yeah.
go this direction. Now, again, sometimes like with Paisley, I'm like, "Nope, nope, nope, too scary, too big," and you're like, "Of course we're gonna do this,"
Or like
like.
when the building became an option for us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just such again, that encouragement thing.
Yeah.
But very often I'll have like this big idea, and
Yeah.
let's start this, let's do this, let's make this change, let's, like, this autumn in the church where
Yeah.
I came back this summer. I'm like, I feel like we are needing to make some changes to keep up with Gen Z. The next generation is
Yeah.
here. It's like 25 now.
Yeah.
And if we haven't made any changes
Yeah.
in the last 5, 7 years, if then we're actually designed for more the previous
Yeah.
generation, millennials. And
Yeah.
and now we probably need to take serious
Yeah.
the idea of shifting to reach the next generation.
Yeah.
uh you you hear these big thoughts. Oh wait, we're going to change some stuff in the church. Your first thoughts, now your thoughts, how do you process those? Kind of like, hey, Brian just came back with a big thought change things.
I guess sometimes I think I probably learned to, if, yeah, like when, yeah, a couple different things. I suppose to not overreact or to not react and shut you down right away.
Right away.
If it's something that I think, in my human estimation, is ridiculous and not going to happen, I'm like, huh, that's cool, honey. Great. Interesting.
Yeah.
But then, like, with changes that we're thinking of that we are doing for like our service flow and things like this, sometimes it just hits it's like, yes, like I just, feel like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. This feels right. This is a good thing. I think you're good at like looking ahead and strategizing. And I think that I think we've been married for a long time, like 28 years, right? So I think there's
If you say so.
some, I think that inevitably we're going to start maybe thinking similarly about things or yes, so that just seemed like, yeah, really, really the right move to make some adjustments. Like it's time. And we'll do lots of we like to go on walks together, like in the evenings, and it doesn't happen all the time, but we kind of try to make that happen when we can. But those are just good. It's good for me to be able to process because sometimes I can get in my head and it's hard for me to articulate what I'm feeling or thinking. You're pretty good at talking. You articulate a lot. But I find that when we're walking, it's good for me. It helps me to articulate, and then it helps us to kind of come into agreement. So that's just something that we like to do, I suppose, to keep us on the same page. And I'm really like looking forward to where we're going because, we have three young adult kids now who've grown up with us here on mission in Scotland, who are all here still in Glasgow at the moment and are walking with the Lord, which is such an incredible mercy, an incredible blessing. And I love to see like them serving at church and then all the people in their lives and thinking about this next generation, what the Spirit is stirring here in Scotland and how we can steward it. I mean, it's just the sweetest time, isn't it, to like be in ministry here.
Yeah, how did you pull that off? How did you raise your kids in
Oh,
a different culture and in the church and really at really any point were they like, no, I want to not be a part of this church. I want to leave or actually go somewhere else and stay in the church. And then now as adults, like choosing on their own to like be serving. Our youngest being 19, turning 20,
yeah,
our middle being 24, and then our oldest,
yeah.
oh
Well,
sorry,
Emma's 23. Yeah.
23,
And
and then
then
our
Ethan's
oldest turning 20,
24.
24, 20,
20.
25.
Yeah.
Um, and like
Yeah.
still like how did you pull this off? How did you
I mean, how did I pull this off? How did you pull this off? I mean, it's all God's mercy, isn't it? And they're choosing, but I think that there's a lot of, I'm just grateful every day to see it and kind of like step back and just kind of awe of what the Lord is doing and just so precious that they're choosing Him. And I think that, um, so there's that.
Mhm.
I would say we sort of fell into really doing church mission together. Like we were, but then I don't know if like we really realized what we were doing. But it was like as the kids got older, they took on more responsibilities and church wasn't like forced, but it was just part of our life, right? And so,
Mhm.
they were serving on the cleaning teams, they were serving with the tech. They were, Ethan was the oldest, our oldest kid, Ethan was the oldest in the kid in the church for many years. And so as he grew up, oh, now we need youth ministry. And oh, now, yeah, what about all these young adults? And our kids are part of that group as well. And, so that really kept us fresh and thinking about um, things through their lens as well. Like I really think a lot about the hospitality, a little tangent, but I think a lot about the hospitality, about the kids' experience of coming into church, because I want the kids that come to the church, hopefully, to just think that Sunday is the best. And why wouldn't I want to be here at church? And why wouldn't I want there to be special juice, special church juice, or special treats, or to have rooms for them, or great, like, yeah, kids workers and people they can look up to. I think um, God was so good to us in bringing some like young adults to our church early on that our kids really looked up to, that were just reinforcing um, the love of God, oop, into their hearts and minds. And I think that, yeah, so having them involved at church, having them with role models that weren't us as well. And just, for them to see us in our imperfection and weaknesses, but still like being sort of the same, you know, as much as possible, I guess, between church and home. Like they see you reading your Bible, they see me reading my Bible, they see us like listening to worship music, so who we are, we're, trying to like be the same.
Mhm.
And giving
Can I
them
make it?
opportunities, like giving our young people opportunities in church, like our kids and others to like step up and to try some public speaking or to try some leading in some different areas or um, yeah, I think these things have been really good. I think there's a fear of like, oh, am I, going to kind of force them into this mission with us and they're going to resent us for it. But actually, um, it's so fun to hear them talk about like, oh, I feel like I have more, confidence at work because in public speaking or in giving presentations or in interfacing with colleagues of all ages because of growing up in the church and having to interact with the church family. So I think that's pretty sweet.
Mhm. Yeah, when we used to wonder if it was just us and our family because
Yeah,
we had this sense of like we are doing this ministry together, this church
yeah,
together, and the kids are in it helping it.
yeah,
However, we've also been seeing, a lot of sixth years. When we bring in the sixth year students to offer them an internship at the church to really to serve for a year, like
I'm not
there,
above bribing them.
no, there is
We'll
without a
pay you,
doubt.
we'll pay you a bit and you can help me serve on Sundays and
Yeah,
get
it's
some great work experience and motivating and you know, I'm not I'm not above it.
Yeah, but you've got all
It's
these
great.
kids who the ones who are
Yeah.
serving, the ones who are like, I will clean, I will help, I will
Yeah.
set up,
Yeah.
I will like their spirituality seems to grab and continue as opposed to those who are just like coming absorbing, and maybe feeling like, okay, I'm just this whatever this moment is isn't perfect for me to be here to absorb. But those who are like serving and diving
Yeah.
in, it really does seem to help people navigate maybe some of the ups and downs because they're like, no, it isn't just about me, it's serving. So our
Yeah.
kids have always been a part of
Yeah.
ministry. They've all, I think all of them have been working with the kids
Yeah.
and and serving in some way or another and learning to kind of teach up in front of people and learning
Yeah.
to teach the kids
Yeah.
um and it set them up well. But like
Yeah.
I guess I would just say, like, if you're like, how do I make sure my kids are going for it, like I serving the church. And looking back, honestly, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
like my big Jesus moment of even calling into ministry when I was volunteer teaching at 14
Yeah.
years old, helping with with the kids class of a fourth and fifth grade boys Sunday school
Yeah.
class. And there's something about like maybe getting our
There
kids
is something
helping and
about it.
serving.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's just being in the house of the Lord, isn't it? And like
Yeah.
being surrounded by those like role models and examples. And I think we had to be, you have to know, like, be a student of the kids that God's brought to your family, right? And
Mhm.
kind of have some, they're not all, I guess like, what am I trying to say? I mean,
Different.
they're all different.
Yeah.
So it's not like we weren't strong arming them to come, but it's sort of like trying to like see, oh, what do they enjoy and what would be a good fit for them? And we're not trying to like create a lot of, I guess, extra rules or expectations, but trying to create opportunities and also to give them a bit of space, if they're like, oh, I might want to try a couple other churches, or I might want to, okay, great, like wonderful, like giving them space to explore as well and to not like have to do everything that we're doing, but like kind of the prayer and the hope is like we're all kind of in this box together, even though, yeah, I don't know. So there's margin and there's like space for them to grow and be themselves as well. It's a tricky dance. And
Yeah.
there's no formula, I don't think. I'm just being a student of your kid, right? And
Yeah.
and trying to encourage them. And I feel like I would, I guess, jokingly try to kind of bring it with humor as well and like present opportunities to them of like, oh, would you like to do this or be a part of this thing at church or whatever? And I have to be okay if they say no, and then kind of zoom back in my disappointment, be like, okay, but they're coming to church or they're involved with this. And, I need to like not push too hard or to demand too much, but to keep presenting opportunities and to kind of hold some of that lightly and just be like, okay, but big picture, like I want them to love the church and to be a part of things, even if it's not like exactly how I would think they should do it or whatever. But I also think it's good to sometimes it's good to just like make them do stuff.
Hmm.
So it's kind of trying to dance around on that line.
I remember yeah, that's good. I remember young Kelly. Uh, she was like one of your life
Yeah.
thoughts or hopes or maybe distant hopes when you were young
Yeah.
was Proverbs 31, being a woman who could laugh at the
Yeah.
day ahead.
Yeah.
And you're kind of talking about that. It seemed like a long ways from back in the teenage Kelly
Yeah,
years versus
exactly.
like now. It does seem like you carry a lightness and a hope and positive expectancy on the days ahead.
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of where we're at, right? There always is the challenge to keep trusting God. There's always things that are heavy on our hearts to be praying for, or, the mystery of the unknown and the future and how things will unfold. And so there's always opportunities to keep trusting God. And I feel like I can lean into my fear, anxiety, and worry, or I can like flip it and lean into hope and just a bit more laughter and a bit more fun. And I feel like that not only helps me, but it helps to set the tone for the home or for the serving team that I'm working with or whatever. So trying to be like to carry things lightly, even though I feel like what we're doing is, I feel like a huge responsibility. So it's kind of like, oh, this feels like so responsible or so like I want to carry this so responsibly and to do it so well and to, um, all the significance of like wanting people to meet Jesus and all of this. But then I think I need to like not let it that like be so heavy. And so how I make that burden light, I suppose, and how the Lord has been helping me is to just to be to have more fun and to laugh and to all of that. And I think that helps me to kind of strike a good tone.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we need to wrap things up. We've had a good time. I know we can talk for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
If people have questions, again, Pete will be
Yeah.
back. They
Yeah.
can email us at brianandpetepodcast at
Yeah.
gmail.com. But when it comes to Kelly, any
Yeah.
final thing you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I this is the final thing I'd like to say before we wrap up. One more thing.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
could I share with like there was a little bit in Isaiah,
yeah, go for it.
chapter 58. We were in Isaiah for our Bible reading groups. And um chapter 58, verse 21 says, "The Lord will guide you continually, giving you water when you are dry and restoring your strength." That jumped out to me, of course. I want my strength restored.
Mhm.
You will be like a well-watered garden, like an ever-flowing spring. Some of you will rebuild the deserted ruins of your cities. Then you will be known as a rebuilder of walls and a restorer of homes. So I love that, just speaking to what the Holy Spirit is doing and breathing life into the church here in the UK and beyond around the world for the young people. And then it says, keep the Sabbath day holy, speak of it with delight as the Lord's holy day. And so I think that really jumped out to me of that. Um, I don't want to, as a pastor's wife, begin to like resent Sundays or to feel the burden of like all the fear and anxiety, but I want to speak of it well and to look forward to it and to carry it with joy. So I love that it said, speak of it with delight as the Lord's holy day, because he's always good and faithful and helps. And it's amazing to just be a part of it.
Yeah, that's powerful. I think even for
Yeah.
pastors like me and
Yeah.
just our sense of like it's we have challenges on Sunday. Sunday's a
Yeah.
big day, and
Yeah.
it can be a day
Mhm.
where we're feeling intimidated or maybe less
Sure.
prepared or less confident or whatever. There's a lot of Sundays in a year
Yeah.
or in 10 years,
Yeah.
and but just that
Yeah.
sense of I'm going to have a positive, hope-filled speaking about it with with
Yeah.
delight and not grumbling. It's powerful.
It is.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody. Thank you, Kellie, for your time, and blessings. Will be back next week. I think Pete will be back from his awesome journeys, but we'll talk to you then. Bye, everybody.
We hope that you enjoyed today's episode of the Brian and Pete podcast. If you found this episode helpful, share with a friend and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Brian is the pastor of Rehope Church, a multi-site church that started in Glasgow. He is also the founder of Scotland Bible School, a 3-year Bible school where students study every book of the Bible. Pete is the pastor of City on a Hill, a multi-site church across Edinburgh and the Lothians. He also leads Go Global, a family of hundreds of churches spanning 17 countries. If you'd like to submit a question to Brian and Pete, please email brianandpetepodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to having you join us for next week's episode.